Just a moment. Okay, so we are live, just connected to Facebook. So we won't be able to really see their comments too much unless you're watching the page. So anybody who's watching, we're gonna get back to comments at some point. So go ahead and share this feed, anybody who's coming on or watching, and we'll go ahead and get started in just a moment. I'm gonna share this to the event and on my page, and you guys can invite friends in as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started on here. Once again, we're live on Facebook. I'm here with Trena Miller, and she's the mother of Treshun Miller. Anybody who's watching us live, feel free to put comments and questions if you have as we are going. We're not seeing them right away, but we will get back to your comments. If there's any other impacted families who are joining us, feel free to share your loved one's name and where you guys are from too. So this is the second episode that I've done of these, and we are sharing the stories of the impacted families that have lost loved ones to a police killing. So we were here last week, and this week we're here talking about Treshun Miller, and we are here with his mother. So I wanted to introduce Trena. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Trena Miller. I'm one of Treshun Miller's mother. I'm here with my wife. She's just not on with me, Kiwana Kelly Miller. So hello, everyone that's out there.
So as we're going through this, I really wanted to get families in, and at this point, I personally have made contact with hundreds and hundreds of families. It's been almost 4 years since my brother was killed. And I know we came into contact maybe sometime last year. I honestly can't even say exactly how or when, but I've seen your posts. I've followed the story. I've recently watched the documentary that you guys have. And my goodness, it's just awful.
Yes, ma'am.
Sad that we meet so many people this way, and the stories are all different, but there's so many similarities. So let's go ahead and let's talk about your son. First of all, I gotta say, you could just, from seeing his pictures, you can see, I feel like I know some of these people after learning so much, hearing about them through their families. And you could tell he had a huge personality, and he had that $1 million smile. So yeah. I want to hear about him growing up, just about his childhood and you guys in your relationship.
Okay. Starting off, I was a single parent in the military when I had Treshun. So the first 8 years, it was just basically me and him and family growing up. He started out off top from the time he was able to talk. He was very articulate and passionate and compassionate. Those were the three things that you would know. Some people, would call him sensitive. He was extra highly sensitive, but he was still articulate in the way he could tell you what was going on with him. So he was just intelligent, genuine, athletic, just a real joy to be around. It was never, when you talk about disciplining and raising a child and child rearing, he didn't really get whoopings, as far as a discipline. It was more of a conversation that you had to talk to him about. He wasn't breaking things or beating people up. It was his articulation and his communication skills that kind of led you to have to treat him in a certain manner. So that's about the that's the first part. Then my wife came into the picture, and we started raising Treshun together as a couple. And nothing really too much changed with that dynamic. She came in loving him as much as I did. His personality just grew as he grew in as far as his culture and his articulation and his knowledge of who he was. He kind of knew who he was at an early age. So some things that you could probably, well, I guess it's just a matter of, I always say communication. You could talk to him about certain things, and he was able to comprehend and have an intelligent conversation. I guess I say that a lot because that was important to me as far as communication. I tend to talk a lot, so I guess that's where he got it from. And he was able to talk and just learn about people and just dealt with a lot of different people. He was very charismatic with that smile, the cheeks, the eyes. He knew at a young age, I guess he was a ladies' man because women just flocked to him, girls would flock to him, but he wasn't the type of, I'm sure there were some ladies who had their heart broke, but he just wasn't, to me, he wasn't malicious as far as how he treated people. He cared a lot about people and just doing things and just meeting new people. That was one thing he just drew a lot of people to him.
And so as can you see it? The photos
Yes,
that are, yeah. So he was a modeling. You said he was athletic, and was he a modeling as well, or those just very like pictures you guys?
No, he did some modeling for out of Wichita, Kansas, where we were from. He got his first modeling gig at the age of 12. And then as late as right before he passed, he had a modeling gig that he did also. So he modeled from the age of 12 to the age of 19, off and on.
Okay, so that's something when people think about people that are killed by police, they often think of a thug or however they label these victims. So just I want to extra point out that close to his family. You had him in modeling and sports his whole life, so. It's definitely not what people assume, what they see on the surface.
Well, yeah, because we only get one image of people who are killed by police because it has to keep up a certain persona of a narrative. And it's why we fight so hard to show our family members and loved ones as humans. And as a human being, you're not going to always, no one's perfect. And when it comes to policing, you're always going to be a criminal. That's why you have police contact. Let them tell it. You were doing something wrong. And in a lot of cases, those families that don't say anything, you're left with that stereotype of who that person was who passed. But that's one of our goals as a family, or specifically me and my wife, is to tell the world his actual story. And his story is of one of polarity, of good and bad, of white and dark, white and black, and light and dark. So people who know him can know both sides of him. People who don't know him can only experience one side of him. So it's our job to share to the world both sides of who he was.
Absolutely. I do want to. Don't know him. Can only experience. Sorry about that.
Yes, okay.
I really like how you guys. I've seen you guys do different type of days. I've seen the jean jacket and different where you guys have. Your people are out there repping and supporting in that way. Nobody really knows how to. When this happens, I feel like we don't know how to fight back. Well, we have a lot of pushback against us, but I really think that's been a cool way, and I haven't really seen people doing those type of days. So that's dope. Yeah.
Yeah. The story behind the jean jacket was a jacket that a picture my wife had on. He had this jacket. I have it in a closet, but he has this jacket with these certain patches on it, and to him, the patches had meanings behind it. And so he called it his shield, basically. He would wear it over his shoulder as a warrior in a shield, with a shield type fashion on it. And he wore it all the time, everywhere he went. You see a couple of pictures that he had with his shirt was open. That was our last Thanksgiving together. And he had that jacket on. So I know I kind of got a lot of ideas from people who have tried to present their loved ones in a loving fashion. So the jean jacket day was, I don't know if it was directly our idea or if it was one of our cousins' ideas, but somebody mentioned to have a jean jacket day, and I thought it was a good idea. So that's what incorporated that. That's what happened. Okay, my cousin TT, one of the cousins that were Tierra Pouncil, was a cousin that was close to him, so she thought of that.
Nice. So he was only 20 years old. What was he doing around this time? High school wasn't too far long ago for him.
Right. Well, he graduated in 2017. He had a short stint in college playing football. That was more of my goal for him. College, sports, just that particular life, getting a degree, going into some kind of field. He tried that. He completed those goals. He went off to college and he ended up coming back. And at the point of him passing, he was actually on his spiritual journey. He actually was a raw vegan at the time he passed. Leading into the incident, he was going to, from what we know, he was going to Kroger's to get some pineapples because he was on his raw vegan and eating fruit. He was meditating at a regular time. He was even into some chaos magic, as far as, we already go into voodoo and things of that nature, but he was in a metaphysical path of trying to find his true self. So he was as I say, that he was really intelligent. So it wasn't too hard for him to go into that spiritual and those type of avenues, quantum physics and quantum science and things of that nature. So that's what he was on.
Yeah, that's so it's definitely up my alley of my interests personally. And it's such a young age for him to already be into that stuff. And I think that's cool. And I think that's just shows a level of intelligence. And again, this is my personal opinion, but a level of intelligence at a young age, reaching into that all of that. Some people never make it there. So,
Right.
Okay. So I am going to just scroll through the comments. We got people saying hi. And also I'll post the link to the documentary. They're asking about that. That was great. Yeah, we have some other impacted families here with us as well. We have about 15 people on right now. Whoever's watching, thank you for being here, and please share this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the part. I know, this is the hard part. This is, speaking of it, but I think a lot of us want to get our loved ones' stories out there and the truth of what happened. So you can go ahead and start sharing, what happened that day or leading up, wherever you want to start.
I like to start out with the story of Treshun's passing in March of 2017. We sometimes skim over that incident. Well, I don't think even people even acknowledge that incident. He was beat up by Arlington Police Department March 8th of 2017. And that incident kind of changed who he was. For us as parents, when he came home after it happened and seeing him bruised up the way he was, it was very impactful. I come from a law enforcement background, so when he told me what actually happened to him, it kind of triggered something for me personally. And of course, for my wife as well, with us just trying to understand what led him to have the contact. But even with that contact, he was hospitalized for a couple of hours with a possible concussion from that altercation. And that kind of, I guess, parted the sea for him on how he was going to spend the rest of his life, to me, to be honest with you. We had several conversations about that incident, and it started a different dialogue on what normal people would have with their sons, Black sons, when it comes to police. So we can, with that incident, and then there are several incidents in between that time of him being incarcerated and having police contact that only intensified how he was feeling and what was going on with him. I guess we didn't really conversate and discuss how he was doing mentally after that incident. And I think we should have. I think that was a part of the opportunity where we could have, kind of seeing what his psyche was and how it was affecting him. Moving forward, he, moved to California, lived with his dad, and then that ended up with him coming back and being with us for that Thanksgiving in 2018. Then with that Thanksgiving trip, though, right before that, he was pulled over in the same car as a passenger on November 19th of 2018. And he was arrested that day for less than, it wasn't even it was crumbs on his, what would be considered crumbs on his pants, on his pants. It wasn't even considered an actual 2.0 or 0.0 of a gram. And so that kind of triggered another incident of him being a passenger in the car and ended up being arrested at that particular point. Before I get into the actual incident, I want you to understand about Arlington policing. Arlington police do something that they consider to be criminal profiling. And what they do is it's actually a cover up for racial profiling. I kind of put on my post a lot of times of their statistics of how many times they pull over Black and brown drivers. And so Treshun had been a victim of their racial profiling tactics in the car that he was in, the same car that he was in when he passed. And this particular driver had a record also of possession. And so when they ran her her tag, it brings up those prior convictions. They also do what's called a reoffender task force, where they actually track drug possessions and drug people, and they kind of use that through their license plate reader on who's moving and who's doing what, and they also attach that to their criminal cases too. So that leads us to January 11th of 2019. Now, before the car is even pulled over, Austin Williams, who is the person who actually shoots my son, he runs the tag. And the reason why I brought up the racial profiling practices is because they do this to avoid their racial profiling, and they call it criminal profiling. So when they pulled the tag and ran it, she had a prior arrest, which was in November. Well, it also showed that there were multiple people in the car. So when the officer's driving behind them, he sees multiple people in the car. So this is his idea. I have a prior drug arrest investigation. I have people in the car. Bingo, I have an arrest. So it was already designed to arrest or pull over this car even before the traffic violation took place. So that's what we get into about the hunting of prey out in Arlington police streets. They don't do it to white drivers because white drivers are not found with contraband is the reason for them not pulling over white drivers, leading to Treshun. So we have the stop. We have the 11 minutes. He's followed. The car is followed for 11 minutes before the actual traffic violation. If you were to follow me for 11 minutes, I guarantee you I'm going to have a traffic violation. But that's RIN versus US. That's pretextual traffic violations. That's the law. So they're within their scope of doing it. But is it right? No. We've had several people, even the city council member, who has acknowledged that the stop in itself was unlawful just for the fact that you're hunting people. So they hunted him, basically. They hunted him, they pulled him over, and they begin to question the driver on her criminal history, not anyone else's in the car. They take her keys, and the keys to the car, they have her pull them out, and they take her phone. Treshun immediately asks why they can't use their phone, and the police officer then tells them it is for officer safety. Treshun acknowledges that and asked about his personal safety and the safety of the occupants in the car. So that right there has already set up a fear issue. For him to say, well, what about our safety? That there's a dialogue going on of who's the prey, who's the hunted. Moving forward in the stop, he also asked for a supervisor. He doesn't say supervisor. I think he says like captain or lieutenant. And the officer chuckles. You have 4 people in the car. The driver is the only one that's 21. Everybody else is under 20, 18, and 19. So if 4 young adults ask for a supervisor and don't call it by the correct name and you laugh at them, how is that like that's kind of setting you up for professionalism off the jump? You're not being considerate of, first off, it's all about you and getting this bus. It's never about what's going on or who's in the car or any questioning. Yeah. So they go on and he's questioned, and then he starts to pull out the driver. No point in this stop does he actually ask for consent to search this car. No point does he ask or mentions that the car smells of marijuana. These are probable cause reasons to actually get someone to search the car. But why don't you ask these questions? What are you trying to avoid by just being so secretive? Why are you being secretive when you have 4 young adults in the car? They don't know what's going on. They can't call their parents, but you want them to be adult enough to follow and cooperate with your investigation, that you give them no cause and no understanding. Yeah. So they get Treshun out the car and he runs. And that's where the conversation of him running, who shot first and who shot second, how the gun exchange took place. There are witnesses who were in the car who gave their statements. The driver gave a statement. 2 people in the back seat gave statements of what they seen. And then you have the 3 responding officers give their statements. You see the video that was provided. That video in itself and the statements of people on scene are literally the only information or evidence that they have of what happened. No forensics evidence, no ballistic evidence of the officer being shot off Alex Quintanilla. He received a shot in his duty belt. They have the duty belt. But they don't have the actual bullet fragment that actually hit the duty belt to compare the bullet. He was hit in his pelvic or in his hip. They say that they can't pull the whatever is left of that bullet out to compare it to anything because it could cause more damage. He had a less than a pin prick size of a bullet hole in him. So where's the rest of the bullet? They were able to find like a little piece of his belt buckle that was broken off and have that piece, but there's no actual bullet fragments to compare to what gun was used that actually hit him. So basically, wow. We were left with that. And then, so the area that I, go ahead, you have a question?
No, I'm just taking it in. And I just want to point out also that Treshun's story is, it is going to be different because he did have the weapon on him, but, I can only imagine how much harder it was for you guys when it happened, because people are automatically going to think, oh, he had a gun, he deserved to get killed. That's just how these people think when it comes to these things, even when they don't. So I can only imagine how much harder that was, still trying to get the facts of it out while people are hearing gun and they're just going to assume.
Well, we didn't know anything about his gun until when we first found out he was in the hospital. First off, we didn't know what the details of him being hurt. All I got was a knock on the door and then told that he was hurt in the traffic stop. That's literally it. So we go to the hospital, and for 3 to 4 hours, we have no idea what the details were of his actual death. Robert Coleman and another officer came to Harris Methodist Hospital in Fort Worth and informed us that Treshun had passed. And when he talked to us, he acknowledged that he knew who Treshun was and knew he was playing football at a local high school. That never registered with us on that connection. But Robert Coleman was the person who beat Treshun up in 2017. Wow. And he was put on as lead detective into Treshun's homicide. So you put the person that is the lead, you put the person that literally put him in the hospital 2 years prior in charge of finding out who killed him. And you're going to tell us that everything was done to this investigation, or everything was done to clear the officer in this investigation when it already started off hazy as it is. But him having a gun was never a problem for us. It's never going to be a problem for us because the gun was registered to me. So it's not a problem to me. He had a right to carry a gun. He was a lawful citizen carrying a gun. Conceal and carry, that's a misdemeanor in Texas. So him having a concealed carry was a misdemeanor crime. So him having a gun has never been a problem for us because he has a right to exist. And that's why that 2017 incident is so important, because you're dealing with not a child, but you're dealing with a young man who's already been victimized by a gang. And then this gang is now pulling him over and harassing him and not at least acknowledging his fear or communicating in a way that doesn't bring more harm to him. So you may think he exaggerated the stop that you think he only was a victim of, or one day, but we have 2 years of harassment by Arlington Police Department. We have 2 years of Arlington Police Department intruding on Treshun's rights as a citizen, and then you want him to just be complacent and comply when they are the ones who's put him in the hospital before. Yeah. So the gun's not an issue to us.
Yeah, and as you've already shared, that he's already been brutalized by the same police department. And, there's with people, it's just so many people being killed by police, young, especially the men, our men, young Black men, brown, our men are being killed, like straight up. So when people, when stories come out, people always think, not us kind of people, I'm talking about other people, that why did they run? Well, that's why they ran. They don't want to be killed. And if they've already been brutalized, like what's next? And then I'd also just even with him having a gun, that's, to me, it may, like, at what point do we have a right to shoot back when these officers are killing or about to kill us? My goodness. Exactly. So I wanted to ask, who came to your guys' door? Who told you guys?
It was 3 Arlington police officers. They came and knocked on the door about 1:16 a.m. Treshun had been shot at 10:18 p.m. He had been at Arlington Memorial, which is like 7 miles from my house, from 10 to 12 a.m. with no one there. No one contacted us. They knew exactly where we lived. The people in the car was very familiar with who Treshun was and where he lived, especially the driver, Jessica Lawson. She and Treshun had been knowing each other since Treshun was a freshman in high school. So they had plenty of opportunity to contact us well before my son had passed, but they waited until like 1:16 to inform me, and he ended up dying at 1:29 in Fort Worth, which is like another 15 to 20 minutes away. It wasn't even in Arlington. So and that's the emphasis of where our justice fight also goes in, is how Treshun passed. A lot of these times we get wrapped up in police officer having the right to self-defense, but it's one thing when you shoot out of self-defense, and it's another thing when you let someone lay on the ground and bleed to death. That's unadulterated murder. They literally had the opportunity to save him or even attempt to save him in a manner that would be a part of their job duty, but they didn't.
Gosh. Okay, so then when you finally got there, what was, tell us more about so we know what happened there, kind of. Is there anything you want to touch on that? But I do want to hear more about what you experienced with the hospital and the medical part of it.
I think this is where the similarity of some cases come in at, is how the law extends out into a private hospital and rules and regulations of a private hospital where a police department can go in and take over what would normally happen in a situation like that because it's a police investigation. So when I arrived at the hospital first, my wife joined me a little bit later, and then family members started coming. And when we finally got there, we waited in the waiting room for a really long time. The security person who was at the desk wouldn't give us any information. And this was a Fort Worth police officer because it was in Fort Worth. So they were literally allowing Arlington police jurisdiction over the case because it was the Arlington shooting. So therefore, they wouldn't tell us any information. They literally told us, they wouldn't tell us anything. We ended up leaving the emergency room and going to go try to search for where he was because they would not tell us anything. And we ended up going into the regular lobby of Harris Methodist. And I remember me and my wife talk about this all the time. We go to ask the officer who's at the desk because he's after hours by now. And we go up to him, we ask him, we're like, so where's the operating room? Is there an operating room by? Can you tell us where the surgery room is? And he's like, no. What he says, he had just gotten off the phone and he says, no, the Arlington detective is here to see you. We never even told them who we were. We never, I don't remember telling him Treshun's name or anything. He automatically just knew what to say when we walked in the door. And we're like, what? We're looking for my son. I ain't trying to talk to a detective. I'm trying to find out where my baby is. Yeah. And I'm like, forget it. We'll just find it ourselves. And he was like, good luck with that. So my child is here in some kind of capacity, hurt, and you tell me good luck with me trying to find him. But that was a battle we wasn't ready to fight. So we both looked at me and my wife, we yin and yang. We was like, okay, put a pin in that. We gonna put a pin in that because we on a mission. So we ended up leaving, and that's when we ran into the detectives. And when we running into the detectives was kind of mysterious because they introduced themselves as homicide detectives. So immediately, it just like, when you hear homicide, I was like, who died? And then that's when we got the news that Treshun had passed. And you can imagine.
Sorry.
But so then after we were told that, we were able to go in and actually speak to somebody from the hospital. A charge nurse came out giving us this lie about Treshun bleeding out within 15 minutes. They told us that as soon as he had arrived, he had bled out, that when they cut him open, there was free blood flowing everywhere. And so basically she gave us the impression that he had arrived at Harris Methodist and bled out and died there. Later on, after we got the evidence from the DA, we found out what his actual plight of transition was, and how long and how tragic and how suffrage that he actually experienced in his passing. And that's where the pain comes from, is that it was, not only was it unnecessary, but to allow someone to die in that manner is intentional. Like you have the ability to ease pain, you have ability to ease suffering, and for whatever reason, you choose not to. Treshun had been shot 5 times. And at no point was he given any pain medication. At no point was his heart rate regulated. At no point was his blood pressure regulated. So he's bleeding out and you're constantly just giving him blood and saline. You even go to the point where he's conscious and talking, which I believe you sedate him and intubate him to keep him from screaming and talking. That's literally what the medical documentation shows, that you did these things in this manner that was so unnecessary, to the point where an ambulance breaks down that is responsible for transporting him to a hospital that can take care of him. How much more negligent can someone be when you have all these pieces of this puzzle and then you say that he died justified homicide?
My goodness. So just knowing so many cases by now, so many of these stories, I can't think of one where the hospital or the people, the medical people, are not in cahoots somehow, are not like allowing and participating in this. And I think that's something that people don't really know and deeply understand. It happened in my brother's case, your son, and I can't think of one that it hasn't. When did you
Exactly.
When did you start really getting the information that gave you like the time frames and even the videos and stuff that showed you like further?
What actually tipped us off was January 14th when we did our first press conference. The lawyer at the time that we have, Justin Moore, instructed us to go get his medical records from Arlington Memorial. And that right there, that we actually got the 2019 incident and the 2017 incident.
Okay.
So we were able to have that information during the press conference. So that immediately gave us red flags on what happened to him. And so when we finally seen the video in the family, you know, when they send you to see the video sitting next to the enemy across from the city of Arlington, and you have to watch the video but maintain your composure, because there's no way you're going to let the people who killed your child see you drop 1 ounce of a tear. So in that conversation, me and my wife was able to go back and forth while watching the video, and we seen that this is not the way. I mean, you can show him getting shot, but there's more to this than just what you say. First off, the police never tell the truth. I don't care if the truth is, I don't care if the truth is obvious. They will find a lie and will exploit the lie, even when they could just handle it, when you can just settle on the truth. So us knowing that, it already started the wheels turning. So then we went through the grand jury case, and we had a meeting with the Tarrant County DA, the 2 DA people that were responsible for bringing the case to court. And in that meeting, it also brought up red flags, because one of the DA, I have his name written down, but I think it's like Gillespie or one of the DA. There was a issue on if our officer who got shot, if he drew his weapon or not. And the DA confirmed that the officer that got hit did in fact drew his weapon. So if you can tell me that he drew his weapon, regardless if it was what they claim to be, that he could have drawn it because Treshun had drawn his, they've said in many police articles that officer never unholstered. So to have the DA sit across from us and say, yes, he did, that there was another red flag. So with that, and then when my wife went into the grand jury, she went into the grand jury because we had an opportunity to speak. So she went in and discussed, was the person who went in and spoke. And when they discussed in the grand jury that one of the people in the grand jury had mentioned something that was kind of a red flag, then that again kept our wheels turning. But you want me to say it about the grand jury? So the grand jury incident, where my wife was speaking to the grand jury, one of the grand jury people stated, we found weed in Treshun's pants. that was something that hadn't been mentioned in the news reports. So my wife asked about that, and it was a question of who is we? Why would someone in a grand jury say we found weed? So she's like, who is we? And so that kind of like, who is we? Who, as a citizen, you're not going to say we found anything. And then you present information that we didn't even, or the family didn't know about, and it's not mentioned to the public. So that means someone in the grand jury had closer information to the investigation than just the citizen who's supposed to be on jury duty. So they ended the grand jury session with her immediately at that point. So she was not even in there 5 minutes of the grand jury. As soon as we sat down and got comfortable waiting for that experience or waiting for the time, she was immediately walking back out the door. So if the grand jury is tainted, the DA says this information happened, that was lead to me requesting the open records report for the case, because the grand jury came back and decided not to prosecute. So therefore, the information is releasable in Texas. So I put the request in. I get the request back. I get all the CDs back. And that's what leads to one of the other areas that we ended up having to deal with. As soon as I get the information, like you did, when you got your brother's information or anybody, any parent, anybody get the information, you start combing through it. And as I'm combing through it, I'm seeing things and we're posting things. That leads to us posting a video that gets me, I guess what they said, a restraining order put on me for releasing information out that they gave me.
So was there a restraining order from like the cop or the PD, or like what? They gave you those and then they're like, hey, well, exactly. Now you're in trouble. So. Wow.
It was, so how it happened was activist out of Dallas, Tiffany Billings, had been in contact with us, and she had been sharing some information, and she shared some of the stuff that we provided. And Austin Williams became aware of the videos that were shared, and he went to the city attorney and complained to the city attorney about the information that was released. The city attorney goes to the Tarrant County DA, and they send me a letter. I see the letter. I post it on my Facebook. I get a hold of a reporter, Barrett Brown. Barrett posts the letter on his Facebook page, and they give me a deadline on when I'm supposed to. They literally wanted me to turn all the videos back in. Is basically what it boiled down to. They were like, we need this information. It's confidential. It's officer safety again. So, and they want it back. I'm like, no. Why would I turn over anything that you gave me, which was in due process, in accordance to the law, and now you want me to turn it back in? So when I didn't turn it back in, they took me to court. They took me to civil court, and it was like a 2-month ordeal where I actually represented myself in front of a Tarrant County civil court judge against Tarrant County DA, and it went the whole. Like, it went all the way up until trial. I was ready to go to trial. I have no lawyer experience whatsoever, but I was standing on whatever I thought was right at the time. I was standing in my square, and I'm not budging. And it ended up, they gave me an edited copy, and I kept the original. And they still didn't get what they drawn out us to get was that. And then they tried to make me responsible for anything that was going to be shared on Facebook after the fact.
What the? My goodness.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of things, but I think that was the first for me to hear something, a family, that kind of situation. I mean, typically I don't think many families can even obtain the video or things from their loved ones. So that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's been an experience. It's been a double-edged sword. It's been a knowledgeable experience that we're sharing. We're educating people on the system, and then it's been a double-edged sword where you're exposing so much, so therefore it brings you in contact with ridicule and constant uncaring. You know, that point of, well, he deserved it, that speech. Gosh. And I think that to be honest, who comes with that part? We can talk about race, we can talk about white supremacy, we talk about the system being racist, but when you have black women, like I'm a black woman, I'm a melanated mother, and you have another black woman handle you to say that your child deserved what he did. Alicia Simmons, the NAACP president for the Arlington chapter, literally told me that Treshun made the decision to die in the manner that he did. She literally said that it was his fault that he passed away in the manner that he did. And then when it came out about how they literally left him to bleed on the ground, she sent somebody else to come ask me for the videos.
Wow.
So you agree that it was atrocious on how he died, but you sent somebody else to acknowledge how wrong you were to say that my child deserved to die. Now she ran for state representative as if she's for the people. How? When you had the opportunity as the president of the NAACP to set a precedent with the Arlington Police Department, you chose to look away. So, and I think that's the battle that I have with Black women who say they are in this fight or in the civil rights movement. And it's just not Black women. I'm just saying people in general who have the opportunity or in positions to change things. You have a position to change, and you're not using your platform to do what you said you want to do. The city council member for Arlington has had conversations with Arlington Police Department about their policy and procedures in closed session, but don't want to give me the information because he doesn't want to get sued. I understand you don't want to get sued, but when is it a point where when my sacrifice has been made, my child is dead, who is going to actually hold police accountable even for the littlest policy violation? Because in the act of you using your authority and your law, you're supposed to be upholding policy and procedure as well. So if it's law and order for me, but it's not law and order for you, and law and order doesn't extend to policy and procedure, I mean, it's crazy.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's a lot. It's so much.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out too how we and you guys too, we're like forced to go dig all this stuff up and become knowledgeable and all this stuff that most of us are not versed in. With your background, your military background, law enforcement background, that's definitely, I've seen some people that have been killed by police whose parents were cops in some form before. And from what I see and know, there's no difference in how they're treated later. Like, how does that, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Like having worked and seen those sides of things to what you guys are living through now?
I already knew the system and how it worked. I left, I was a correction officer, so I left work in the jail because of the inhumane treatment of people. I'm a loving person. So I'm empathetic and I'm compassionate. And those two things don't mesh well in a brotherhood of policing. It doesn't mesh well in the criminal justice system because they don't use the justice system of compassion and justice system of humanity. The Maya justice system. They use a controlled, divide, conquer, terror, fear factor type of justice system. And so I already knew even before my son was actually caught up in that system of how that system worked. And then I have people that I love and care about that were actually in that system, and I heard their stories and what they went through. So when it actually happened to my son, it was familiar already. So I guess I always say that God was already preparing me for a fight because he already put me in as a warrior. And so therefore, me picking up this torch or, as a fight for justice, it just created my cause to become a crisis, my crisis become a cause. Yeah. And so that's why I feel my experiences gives me the ability to be objective, and I can place the facts and separate it from being my son, because the facts are the facts. But this has also happened to my son. So it just kind of puts that extra drive in me that is saying that if you don't listen to me, if you're not hearing me, this will be your child. As a matter of fact, it's going to be your child. As a matter of fact, it's going to be you. So why don't you learn from what we're going through instead of scrutinizing it and ridiculing it and then placing it back on Treshun? Open your heart and listen to what's being told to you so you can see it for yourself.
Yeah, it's hard getting it across and getting people to listen. How do you, like, support wise, when this happened to you guys? You know, I know you you and your wife have each other. How has it been, like, have you guys been supported, family, friends, community, since it happened?
So I speak on truth. I stand on truth a lot. It's been lonely. People can tell you, you see, I wasn't supposed to cry. I was trying to just hold on to that part. But people can tell you that they're sorry for your loss. And you see that for yourself. They can tell you how much they admire your strength. But the coming over and cleaning up the kitchen for you, you know what I'm saying? The coming over and just combing your hair, just hugging on you, just loving on you. Those are the things we don't get from the outside that we give to each other. And sometimes our facade can be of one of strength, and it can be of one that we may not need that. But these subtle little things that people do when they really care about you, those things keep you going.
Yeah.
So if it's just me and my wife, and plus I said she's sick with long hauls COVID. So a lot of our grief has been put on pause because she's trying to survive. And so grieving for people of justice families, the grieving system is so much more different because a lot of grief counselors don't know how to deal with the anger that comes from policing, or how the anger that people feel for policing because they have their own biases about policing. Literally, the story of my wife's grief counselor that she was able to get used to be an advocate for the city of Arlington. So she couldn't take her case because of the conflict of interest. So she farmed her out, and we literally haven't had a grief counselor. We're literally doing this by ourselves. So that's why our own self-journey and acknowledgement has been so important to us, because before he passed, Treshun planted seeds in us that told us that the answer is within. That I don't have to be looking for external releases of my grief and external people to grieve for me or console me, that God already gave, the universe already gave me what I needed within. So it's made the journey a little bit different from someone who hasn't been woken yet, or who hasn't become in contact with the knowledge and the consciousness that allows you to power yourself up when no one's there to lift you up.
Yeah.
I need to make that a t-shirt.
That's a good one. No, sometimes you be throwing those gems out. I'm like, yes, you know, goodness, it's the crazy life when this happens. So where are you guys at? I mean, I know how it is when, you know, we don't have an option to do a criminal case or get a thorough investigation, real investigation. We don't have those options. Are you guys, where are you guys at? Are you guys doing a civil case? And what's the next steps for you guys right now?
Man, that civil case journey is something else. I know I've heard some of your posts about dealing with the lawyers with your brother, and I don't know why it's taking so long for people to see what a civil lawyer really does in these type of situations. We talk about the Lee merits, and we talk about the Ben Crumbs, and we talk about all the unarmed lawyers who are out for the rally of the fight. But when the truth of the matter is, those people are in it for money. If they don't see no money coming out of it, they're not going to put any effort into it. So when we've talked to lawyers on the phone. Here recently, we talked to a lawyer for like 15 minutes on the phone, telling you exactly what I'm telling you. She literally told me to come to her office, and with the CD and the CD-ROM and all this information, we get to the office early to be punctual. The office is closed. The door is locked. The lights is off. We call her, and she don't ever call back. So you want us to continue to be rejected. We've been rejected from the media for trying to tell our story. We've been rejected from family and friends who don't want to participate because they have business ventures, who don't want to, have that kind of avenue attachment to their personal business. We have city council members who don't want to hear it, and then you want me to send information to a lawyer, and then it's not even me sending it. I got to put it in a presentation that makes it easy for him. Come on now. Why do I got to extend that amount of effort for you to tell me, oh yeah, he died? He showed did let him die. Absolutely. But that's Texas.
Yeah, I can.
So where we're at, I answered the question.
No, that's good. It feels like the way when I'm hearing you, I've been there. So I'm like, it feels like everywhere you go, like every door is shut on us, they've been there with the lawyers. We're on our 4th set of attorneys. We're going to be hitting the 4-year mark in February. 4 set of attorneys.
Condones.
The ones you named, those are what I call them Hollywood lawyers. They don't really give a shit because, with all the money and stuff they're getting, they can make a greater change, and they aren't. And they only care about the cases that are going to make them big money. To me, them,
yes, sir. Yes.
The people that like the organizations and activists and those kind of lawyers, to me, I think they're helping the police, and they're helping the narrative that the media and the police do, because they make it appear that only a few unarmed Black men are killed, here and there. That's what it seems that the majority of the country seems to think, when we know the reality that people are being killed every day. And
yeah,
they're people and
white people. White people are being killed by policing. As a matter of fact, they come into the once a white person happens to could be, and some people consider it to be like I can't think of the word of it, but they don't look at the white epidemic of white people being killed by policing in the same manner as in minorities or melanated people. But the truth of the matter is, policing power is about the have and the have-nots, and the brotherhood, and the people that control policing for their political agendas and things of that nature of power. So our stories are the same because the system is the same. And when people start understanding that an unarmed person is not getting any justice, an armed person is not getting any justice, that we need to start looking at us as protesters of how we choose to protest. Because if you're upset strictly behind somebody who's unarmed and then ridicule someone who's armed, ask yourself, what are you really protesting? Because the actual natural reality is self-defense. And a human is going to have self-defense regardless of who the attacker is. Yep. So you want to parade in the street about an unarmed person who couldn't protect themselves. And if you were to ask that unarmed person, if I gave you a weapon, would you have used it that night? And 100% they're going to say yes. Who's going to allow someone to beat them upside the head and just be joyous because I'm complying and I want to make sure I'm considered to be a good poster child for someone to march in the streets?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really.
So I'll tell anybody, like I tell my son, you have a right to exist. You have a right to defend yourself. Malcolm X, by any means necessary. You do what it takes for you to be safe. And if that happened in the case of Treshun, where he used that and he did decide to shoot in a manner of where he felt safe, then of course I'm going to have a conversation on you. What led to him feeling unsafe? Why are we not looking at how policing has made people, individuals, feel unsafe?
My goodness, so much. Excuse me. So we're just after 6. I usually do this about an hour, but is there anything anything else you want to touch on, or any ways. I am going to share the documentary, The Consequence of Knowledge, that you guys did. That was a very great one. I'm going to edit this caption after. I'll add that in there as somebody asked for it. So, but yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on, or any way people can be of support, and any message you might have that you want to finish off with?
You have anything? Well, I just want, what I really want, and I know the goal of Treshun and what he would really want is for us not to view him as so much of a victim, and to view his death in such a manner of that is too painful that you can't get past the pain to where you see the glory and the victory of death. And I know he was on the journey of learning that death is not the end. And I think the physical part of losing him is what we battle with so much as those left behind. But as you've seen in your journey of your brother is never gone. His spirit lives in you as it lives in his daughter, as it lives in your sons, his nephews. And it lives in us, and it lives in my nieces and nephews who loved him. And the spirit of Treshun, that of a warrior, and that of a nurturer and a good person, because those things come in one person. A warrior can operate out of love. You can fight battles in this lifetime on a love basis that may bring harm to other people, in a way that you're protecting the ones you love. You're protecting yourself. And I really believe his true story is that love comes in the dark. Love comes in the dark matter, in the dark places, in the primordial waters of chaos, because love destroys and love also rebuilds. So that's the story of Treshun Simone Miller. Love. He was love. And if I can pick up his phone after he passed, and the first message I see is him messaging someone that he delivered a microwave and food to somebody's mother, you can't tell me nothing about my baby. So
Oh gosh,
that's about it.
No, that's, thank you for sharing, because that message, it does help me. A lot of us families, we relive, and we've had to see with our own eyes pictures and videos and horrible things of our loved ones. And then on the flip side, those pigs, we get to see the way they treated our loved one and what they did, and their cover up and all of that. And I know I have my days where I sit and, we relive this stuff. So that's a good message. And, I think all the families, that it's good for us to remind each other of that too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, they'll take you there. It'll be a F to fuck the police one day. And it's still, even in my conversation of love, it's always fuck the police, because it's a system of policing. It is a system of court. Huh? Okay, but yeah, that's just what it is.
Yeah, same. I get that. People like, hey, don't act like that. But the way I say is like, what I'm doing here, I'm like, we took this tragedy and we're turning it into, pain into power. And obviously our love for our loved one is what's keeping us going, and knowing that they were done so wrongly. And, my, with their personalities, I know Michael and Treshun, they huge personalities. They're very loved and missed. I think back, like, Michael wouldn't have let me go down like this. Like, he protected me my whole life, so, and I know the same with him. As you're sharing, what kind of person he is. And obviously he gets it from his mama. And yeah, it's a lot. But thank you for sharing. And yeah, if you future things, just, I always tell everybody, you guys need me to help share, just tag me, and I'll, I might not be on that day. Sometimes I take my days off, but any way I can help share stuff, help get the story out. So this will be uploaded. I'll upload it to YouTube. And then it'll be in the podcast form, not just waiting to get accepted on Apple. So, in the
Okay.
future, people can, it's crazy how many families are out there, but, a couple months from now, I'm going to be up there in the episodes, and it's sad, but one of the things we got to do, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. We got to take it in our own hands. I appreciate
yeah,
it. I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you.
yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing and coming on. And I just want to say one more time, I just really loved the documentary and seeing the different family members. You guys speak of him and share your different experience, like life experiences, just memories. It just really reminds me, and others that, hey, these are real people. Like, we're normal ass people. This could really happen to anybody,
Yep.
any of us.
Yes.
And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
goodness. Okay, well, I will let you guys continue with your night. Thank you for coming
All
on and
right.
sharing all this. I'll see you on Facebook.
No problem.
All right, take
All
care.
right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody who was
Bye.
listening. We'll be back next week.